as we have more people joining us. But thank you all for joining us today for our UTRU meeting. Yes, this is our annual convention. Thank you all again for being here. We will be here to nominate and vote for our candidates for the 2023-2025 Board of Directors. As it currently stands, we will be filling 4 positions. We have 5 nominees, and yeah, we will get kind of going on that. So let's go ahead and get things started. My name is Curtis Herring. I'm the Executive Director of the Utah Transit Writers Union. And to get things started, sorry, another person is joining. To get things started, let's go ahead and pass off to John Pearson, who is our president.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, especially to the board members who've been serving over the last year and getting UTRU reinvigorated. We're very happy with the progress that's been made. We have partnerships that have grown, chapters that have been growing. And today we're going to be voting on some new board members. We're going to be discussing the adoption of rules. We'll have candidate speeches for nominations. So if anybody wants to jump in at this point, they can. We'll have a voting and member discussion of the 2024 issues. We'll announce the winners, and then we'll close the convention. Curtis will give us some more details, but I'm really happy to see Zach Adams, Randy Atkin, Bill Sirico, Rowan Tempest, and Kay Walker all running for membership on the board. And we welcome all of them to be involved as possible, even if not as board members. And doors are always open. And so with that, I'll hand it back to Curtis.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, we want to keep it short and sweet as much as we can. We know that these things can go long. And so, yes, we want to go through this as much as possible. So a couple of, first of all, just sort of housekeeping points of view. Let's first of all, and I will keep this up here for a moment. I want to first of all draw your direction towards the QR code / URL at the bottom of the screen there. Everybody that is a current dues paying member will be able to vote in today's election. Everybody who was a dues paying member as of 2 days ago should have received an email telling them, yes, you are a dues paying member. If you did not receive that email, if you missed that, check your spam, first of all. It would have come from newsletter@utru.org or utru.org, excuse me. If you paid after that, you would have received it directly from myself, curtis.herring@utru.org. As well, we had 1 or 2 people do it after the fact. And so if you did not receive that, we sent out an email yesterday informing everybody on our email list saying, hey, if you didn't hear this, if you didn't hear from us, please reach out. Let us know if you had any questions on that. So you still have the opportunity to pay dues right up pretty much until almost now. I know it says about 10:15 approximately. We're going to go ahead and extend that just until the last candidate speaks. And if there are any floor nominees, it might just take me a little bit longer to get the ballots out. But basically, you need to be able to pay your dues in order to vote in this election. So as far as the rules and how this will go today, we're just going to follow basically Robert's Rules of Order. I don't think we will have all that much. It's not as if we're going to be changing I can't talk today. I apologize. Changing kind of our board and how we actually function as an organization. It's mostly just going to be candidate speeches and those sorts of things. That being said, for those of you that are unclear, we are going to be doing this by way of ranked choice voting, but we're kind of going to be doing a reverse ranked choice voting. Normally in ranked choice voting, you have a slate of candidates and you are trying to find one candidate out of those slate of candidates. In this situation, it's kind of the reverse. We have a slate of candidates and we're trying to fill 4 positions, but we have 5 candidates. And so in this case, we're going to be doing a ranked choice voting where the person that gets the highest rank is eliminated. And by eliminated, I mean they have made it to the board. And then the second highest person made it to the board, third highest, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a reverse of that, if that makes sense. And so that's how we're going to handle that. I saw a question about the balloting. So how will you get your ballot? So we have the list of people that have paid their dues over the past year. And so what will happen is once the final speech is taking place, once that has gone through, you will receive an email from my email address, curtis.herring@utru.org. It will link you over to a Google form. And the Google form will contain two things. One, it will contain the email address that was listed when you paid your dues, right? That is how we know that it came from you, right? That's how we know that you were the person that you were supposed to get the ballot from. That's also how we check and make sure. So if for whatever reason you put in a different email address or something happens and it doesn't match up, your ballot will be spoiled. It will not count. So make sure that whatever email address you receive that ballot from, it comes through. And you put that email address in. And then the second part of it is that it will show a list of the candidates. So we obviously know the candidates that have already been listed. If there are any floor nominations as well, give me a minute. I will update the ballot appropriately. And then it will just list them and it will rank up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is your first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and fifth choice? You do not have to choose 5 choices. If you just want to vote for one person and one person alone, that's fine. You will just click, this is my first choice, and that's it. You do have to go over to the end. There's a nones section and just click, second choice, none, third choice, none, fourth choice, none, and so on and so forth. And that's how we will rank it. Hopefully it'll make more sense. If you are looking at your ballot, we will be having an open discussion section. If there are any questions, I will have the chat open off to the side, and I will be happy to answer those questions as they come in. Balloting itself, I will declare once the email is sent and basically say we will keep balloting open for 15, 20 minutes. We'll just kind of take a look at the timing on that. And then I will also say we've got 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left. Make sure you get your ballots in. From there, I will do the tally. We will continue to have kind of an open discussion about the things that we are working on, see where we would like the group to go, so on and so forth. And then I will declare the winner and take it there. So that's that. Again, this is kind of your opportunity one more time if you haven't paid dues. Just by way of clarification, the minimum due is $5 a month or your average daily cost to use transit, whichever is higher. Or you may make a yearly payment of $50. Dues above $5 or the ridership costs do not result in additional votes. It is appreciated, of course, but it's not necessary. And then those dues do need to be paid annually. So if you paid it in the 2022, or if you paid it prior to today, great, fantastic, but it's not going to carry forward necessarily into next year's election. You would need to pay another due for that election. Now, if you're paying the monthly ones, then it would, because it's kind of carrying forward. Anne, you have a question?
Yeah, I need to pay dues and I don't see where I can do that.
So it's 2 ways. You can either pull out your phone and you can scan that QR code on your screen, or you can go to bit.ly/donate to UTRU.
Okay, I am not the most tech savvy person.
That's okay. So we'll leave that up on the screen for a little bit longer. But are there any other questions? Okay.
Curtis, can you put the link to that in the chat?
Yes, I will do that right now. That's actually what I was going to do. There you go. That's in there as well. So go ahead and go through that process. It'll take you over to a PayPal. Just go ahead and do that. Now be careful if you are just doing like the $5, make sure you do set it up for monthly. Otherwise, it again will not count. We do, because sometimes we do just take one-time donations. So do make sure that you either set it up for the $5 a month or $50 a year in order to be able to vote.
I don't see a chat on my screen. What am I doing?
I don't know. That should be an option down on your screen. But yeah, if you hold up your phone to the screen, we could go. Ernie,
that didn't work either.
So the button that you use to raise your hand,
Yeah,
Right next to that, there is a little speech bubble for the conversation. You can click that. It'll open a
Yeah.
chat window.
yeah, there you go.
That's what it is.
Okay. There, okay. I think.
Yeah, so you just
Okay,
want to copy
thanks.
and paste that link. Okay, perfect.
Ernie, you had your hand raised. Are you good?
No, that was it. I was just going to give instructions on how to get to chat.
Cool. There you go. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
then let's go ahead and move on. All right, it is time for candidate speeches. Real quick, not looking for a whole lot. And candidates, I realized that I kind of didn't go over this a ton with you guys, or really at all. But just looking for maybe a minute or two, who you are, why you're running, and just a little bit about yourself. We're just going to go in alphabetical order by last name. So yeah, tell us who you are, why you're running, why you support, or why you want to be on the UTRU board. So we're going to go ahead and start off.
Yeah, hold on a
with
second.
Zach.
Hold on a second,
Oh,
Curtis.
sorry.
If you are not actively speaking, please mute your microphone
yes.
because we are getting feedback on the channel. So if you are not actively speaking, mute your microphone.
All right, now let's go over to Zach.
Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
Mhm.
All right, hold on one second. Let me get my camera on. I'm ashamed to say I'm recording from my car. So hopefully that doesn't instantly disqualify me, but my name's Zach, and I run a little real estate development company, and I'm just out at a project site right now. So, but here I am. I am a huge fan of public transit. I think so. I guess I could say the company I run is called Walkable, and what we do is we focus on projects around transit stations that are usually mixed use, commercial on the bottom, a couple floors of residential on top. And so we very selectively only choose projects that kind of help foster the walkability of neighborhoods. And when I stumbled on UTRU, maybe what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago during COVID, the message of UTRU really resonated with me. I do get kind of busy with with my life. I've got 2 kids, and I do a lot of traveling as well. I'm also I'm in the Utah National Guard too, so that can kind of keep me busy. But I do usually not have a problem with the commitments of board membership. So I would love to serve another year for you guys. All right, I think that's it. I don't know if there's anything else, questions, or just the speech.
No, that's basically it. Yeah, we're just kind of getting to know you a little bit better. So yeah, thank you, Zach. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Randy.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I unmuted? All right. So my name is Randy Atkin. I'm a commercial real estate agent with Colliers. So Zach, we should be working together, of course. But I'm interested in transit, one, because of location for employees and some of my clients, and kind of how people get around. And also I'm a frequent user, and I just think that rider advocacy is something that is a little bit lacking. And so I'm excited to be part of UTRU. I'd like to be board member again. I've been board member for 2 years now. Is that right, Chris? And so my
Year and
term
a
is
half,
expiring.
something like that. Yep.
Year and a half. My term's expiring, and I want to be up if you'll have me.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Next up, Bill Sicaro, is it?
Close. It's Sirocco.
Oh, Sirocco. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I want to thank UTRU for the opportunity to be considered for your board. My wife and my daughter and myself, we moved to Park City back in June of 2020. We moved from New York City. I lived in Manhattan for 27 years. Rode public transit nearly every day of my life during those 27 years. During my college years, I grew up on Eastern Long Island, but I attended Brown University up in Providence, Rhode Island. And every time I would head to college, I would take a ferry across the Long Island Sound up to New London, Connecticut, and then hop on the Amtrak in New London up to Providence, Rhode Island. So my whole life has been really oriented around public transportation. When we moved to Utah, and here in Park City, I started doing some research because the one thing that people complain about here in Park City all the time is traffic and transportation. And through that research, I became aware of the proposal for the Rio Grande plan that was developed by Christian Lenhart and Cameron Blakely, and reached out to those guys 2 years ago. And that really kind of got me down the rabbit hole of studying transportation, not just up in Park City, but down in the Salt Lake Valley as well, and throughout greater Utah. So I would love the opportunity to be on your board and help advocate for greater transportation solutions. I feel like the next 10 years for Utah, as the governor said this week, these next 10 years is Utah's time for us to get some massive investment in our transportation infrastructure. And I would love to help advocate for that. So that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up is Roan Tempest. Roan, you are up. Oh, you are muted. Oh, Roan, you are still muted. Let me check your settings, perhaps. Upper right corner. I muted everyone. There we go.
Okay, I'm very sorry.
You're okay.
So 2 minutes is difficult. I'll try it. My name is Roan Tempest. It's R-O-N-E, not R-H like the river, or R-O-A-N like the horse. It's from the Mormon angel Moroni, but I'm not religious. I'm a 6th generation resident of the Avenues, although I've lived a good part of my life overseas. Probably have more experience with public transit than anybody you can imagine. I lived in India, China, France, Turkey, Lebanon, Germany, as well as a number of American cities, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, and San Francisco. Have a lot of personal experience. I really like the role that the Utah Transit Riders Union plays as an ombudsperson or watchdog for the UTA. I'm really a big fan of Chris Stout's work and his articles in the newsletter. Most recent that I can think of is the one he did about drivers and driver shortages and why that is. And we've had some dialogue back and forth. I think I'd be a valuable member of the board. I would like to see it become more of I would like to see it continue its advocacy of public transit, which I believe in, but also play a larger role, which I think it can do, as a check on UTA, which is largely unsupervised. There's almost no oversight of UTA, although it has a very big budget. Also, I'd like to get out of the transit question as a culture war. I'd like to see it more as a public need and public service, as it should be. I think we need to also adjust to changes. For example, I don't think we're ever going to recover all of the people lost in the COVID, but the workplace has changed. That means it has different needs. We can't be like generals who are fighting the last war. We have to adjust to the current conditions. I'd like to see a member of the Riders Union on either the advisory board or the board of the UTA. I'd like to see more participation in their meetings, which are really just basically rubber stamp meetings. Anyway, I think there's a lot to do. I think my history, you can find out all about me if you want in my website, which is Rone, R-O-N-E, Tempest, no dot, Rone Tempest at, .com, RoneTempest.com. That gives me my whole background. And I just, I've been studying this a lot recently. I think it's a really important area, but I think it needs broader attention. I think it should be, I think I can use my journalistic background to help give the Writers Union a much higher profile. I think people ought to be paying more attention to what it says, and I think it has a real positive role to play in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And then last but not least, I hand it over to Kay Walker. Kay?
Hi, yeah, I'm Kay Walker, they, them. I have been using public transportation for the vast majority of my transit since probably around 2015, back in high school. And so I have been very familiar with the ways in which it feels like public transit just doesn't quite serve riders well enough in a lot of ways. And so I'm very passionate about public transit, and I'm very passionate about creating a friendlier infrastructure to people that doesn't require them to learn to drive 1-ton hunks of machinery just to move anywhere. And so while I don't necessarily think I have all the same experience that all the other candidates do, I am still very passionate. I have tried to do a lot of research into why our public infrastructure formed the way it did and how it formed the way it did. And I want to move into what we could do moving forward to try and change those things. So I'm very passionate about public transit. I talk about it a lot in my day-to-day life. And I figured I'm not in the Salt Lake County and I am an underrepresented person. I'm non-binary, so I decided to throw in candidacy as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And thank you to all of our candidates. All right. So this is the opportunity. If there are any nominations from the floor, is there anybody who, for whatever reason, did not have the opportunity to sign up that wishes to throw their hat into the ring? Going once. Oh, Tyson, you're raising your hand? Yes. Oh, you're muted, unmuted, muted.
Can you hear me okay now? You should be able.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sure, yeah, I mean, if you don't mind. I mean, I feel it's a little awkward because I only became a dues paying member yesterday evening.
Yes,
I
saw that yet.
sort of learned about.
Oh, you're fine.
But yeah, I'm a graduate student at the U. I study public administration. I've written about transit-oriented development and how that's financed, particularly like trying to get the front runner extended down into Springville. I'm working with a nonprofit group called Utah Neighbors for More Neighbors to help get some grant funding to advocate for like higher density housing, and interested just in how to build advocacy coalitions across, private sector, public sector to advocate for housing, but also transit just as a coalition. So yeah, thank you.
All right, sounds good. And Anne, you have your hand raised as well?
Yes. I have lived in Salt Lake City for over 40 years. I also came from the East Coast, northern New Jersey, used mass transit into the city most of the time, and that's how I got around. For the past about 7 years, I either use mass transit or walk 99.9% of the time. I do not own a car. And I agree with Roan about somebody needing to be available to the UTA meetings, because I'm under the impression that the people that run UTA don't use UTA. And, they might have a set, we use it to get back and forth to work, but what happens when you need to go to the grocery store and things like that? And I also feel like I am not at all, you can all feel sorry for me because I do live in Sugar House. And I don't feel like, again, I don't blame UTA for any of this, but somebody from UTA and the people who are in charge of tearing up every street that they possibly can need to talk to each other, because not only are all the buses on detours, but then the detours go on detours and you can't get anywhere. Their signage is awful. Their maps are now awful. They don't give you side streets so you know where to get off. Anyway, like I said, somebody who uses mass transit as their only way of transportation needs to let UTA know how poorly some of their signage and information is.
Fantastic. All right. Any other individuals that want to throw their hats in? All right. Ernie.
Well, I don't necessarily want to throw my hat in. I'm just moving that we close nominations to the, what is that now? 7 candidates who have
We're
declared.
We are up to 7, yes. And Ernie, I know that you are a dues payer, so that is nominated. It has been seconded, so it is a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it has been closed. So Tyson and Ann, let me just double check to make sure that you are on the ballot. I'm pretty sure you are. You are. Okay. So I just want to make sure on that front before we send out ballots. Okay. So we are going to go ahead. We're going to move into balloting. Bear with me 1 minute. Oh, my screen is already moving forward. So as far as that is concerned, give me 1 second here. But I'm going to actually pass over to John really quick, or actually John and Chris, to talk a little bit about Transit Imagined. John, you could talk about, or Chris, you could talk about Transit Imagined a little bit. Chris, you can talk about our community advocacy training program and the band pool and some of the things that we have going on there as I work on, oh, and Chris, also our budget update as I start to send out ballots.
Yeah, so let me just go into before I talk about Transit Imagined. I want to if I can find it, give me just a second. I closed it, and this is what happens on live television, folks.
Let me know if you need me to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, I've started to share mine, so
okay.
Yeah. So basically, my company handles the accounting, which is kind of extraordinary because being the co-founder, I can pretty much put myself, or at least nominate myself, in to do whatever, and that's one of the, that's primarily how John got to be president, because I was president for so many years and literally got burned out, and so now my job is to cheerlead everybody, talk about some of the visions we have, but then I'm also an accountant, so I handle all the accounting. And I'm kind of doing this a little bit different than what we normally would do. Normally, I'd tell you what our cash balance is, and I would kind of give you a different view of where we're at. But essentially, a balance sheet is basically what assets the entity has. And so as of September 30th, we essentially had $482 in the account, with payroll liabilities, payroll taxes, unemployment for Curtis of about $595, which is obviously, that's upside down. And so to kind of give you a better idea where we're at financially is normally what you would see in a profit and loss statement. And so this year, through our regular donations and through what Curtis donates, because Curtis does donate a portion of his wages back to the entity. So with that, the money we collected from dues, the amount of money that I've put in, that John's put in, that Zach's put in, we only essentially had income of $48.91.61. Well, 48.92.26 with some interest we made. But for the most part, our payroll is our largest expense. and that of course is what we pay Curtis. And so effectively, effectively we need an extra $2,500 this year to break even. But again, that is not, that's not, it's not a dire outlook. But what we're attempting to do with the finances is we would like to get at least $10,000 a year in donations and support from other entities. Like we are looking at trying to get some money from UTA and some other grants that we have. But $10,000 is what we should have to be able to operate comfortably. And as everybody can see, we're a little bit short of that on an annual basis. And I still have, I donate about $4,000 a year with my company. I still have a couple of $1,000s I can donate for this year. But overall, I mean, it's not it beats where we were at 2-3 years ago. 2-3 years ago, we couldn't afford Curtis. We couldn't afford to do much of anything. And that's when I made the decision, well, we have to start donating so that we can pay somebody to do the work that has to be done on a monthly basis. So we're getting there. It's going to take some time. All I can say is that if you know somebody who would be interested in donating, it's tax deductible. And if you know anybody, send them our way. Like I said, the only way that our group can move forward in what we advocate is to have is to get funding, and we can only do that through donations. The other thing is that we've been working on is the Transit Imagined, and Transit Imagined has been an ongoing project literally since day one, since I co-founded this back in 2014. The previous Utah Transit Rider Union was pretty much a result of when the buses split and they changed all the bus routes back in 2006. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to make a more positive advocacy group, something that yeah, we can talk about how service is bad, but we also have to talk about how public transit is good and how more trains, more buses, is what we need. And Bill, I have ridden so many subways in New York City and taken so many buses in New York. My time away from here is to go to New York and just wander the streets. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I think you can understand
absolutely
how that is. If you've ever been to Manhattan, it's the world's largest human zoo. And it literally is a fun thing to do. But transit has to be positive. We can't just talk about the negative things. We have to talk about the positive things. And so Transit Imagined, to put simply, is more buses, more trains everywhere all the time. And so literally we're talking about being able to step out, walk a quarter of a mile from wherever you're at in Utah, and again, wherever you're at in Utah, and that you can find a transit option that's going to take you to wherever you need to go. And so some of the things that we want to work on, for instance, Tooele, you can't get to Salt Lake from Tooele easily by bus unless you leave first thing in the morning and then want to get back in the early afternoon. So, and again, how people get around in transit is to be able to have the ability to hop on something that's convenient. Tooele doesn't have anything that's convenient. There isn't any transit that goes directly to Logan. And these are all things that the Transit Imagined has as far as a big vision. So again, more buses, more trains everywhere all the time. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on our versions of the maps, where we want and where we think transit riders want to go and how often they want to get there. The hour service for buses on Sunday, it just, there are people that do things other than go to church on Sunday. People go to work, people go shopping, they need those buses, they need the trains to be able to get where they're going. And that is what Transit Imagined is all about. And again, if I haven't said it already, and I'll keep saying it, more buses, more trains everywhere all the time. That's Transit Imagined. John?
Actually, before John jumps in, just to let you know, ballots have been sent. So please be sure to check your email inboxes to the email address that you provided at the time of making your donation. Again, be sure to put your email address in as your as part of that. It's either the first or second question that you will see. If it asks you to do it twice, please do it twice. It's just a check. By way of formality, balloting must be received by 10:55. So that is 15 minutes from now. So yeah, 10:55. I'll make one more announcement before we are done. So now I will go ahead and send it over to John.
Great, thanks, Curtis, and thanks, Chris, for all the hard work you've done over the years to keep this organization alive and growing. Just to emphasize, one of the roles of the board of directors is to provide input into the organization, to Curtis and to the chapters, provide strategic direction, but also fundraise. We don't get as much done. Your board membership is more about how do you bring some connections, financial connections, etc., to empower the organization, to guide the organization. And so we're really looking to do more of that in the year moving ahead and keep us on a sustainable financial track. Part of that can be through discovering ways to utilize organizations you're involved with to do partnerships with UTRU. And so one of our grants that we have now is for van pools. So the UTA has a van pool program, and there's something like 420 or so vans that are going around the valley to various institutions and companies, and they are run by the UTA, and they have drivers from the individual organizations that are basically a subsidized carpool in a sense. And so we got a grant at the University of Utah to look at the climate and health co-benefits of taking van pools to work. And then as part of that had advocacy, the CAT program, do advocacy training among the members of the van pools at the University of Utah. And so that got money over to UTRU, helped us in terms of building the organization, also got the word out about the organization with the UTA and with the Utah School of Medicine and University of Utah Health. And so this kind of serve multiple purposes. And so when you think about your time on the board, think about the partnerships that you can bring, not just getting some donors in, but also the partnerships you can bring to the table. Because part of this is having that presence within Utah in the various municipalities and the various parts of the state to make sure that our voice is heard and that there's somebody out there not just saying yay or nay to the latest highway expansion project, but that there is actually a group out there that is representing the fact that public transit is a good solution for a variety of things. It's better for our health, it's better for our air quality, it's better for climate change, and it's better for the economy and for housing as well. And so all these things are interlinked, and transit underlies a lot of them. And so when you're thinking about your time on the board and how you can help UTRU as an organization, think about those aspects of where these partnerships could build and how we could continue to reach out and continue to grow as an organization in the state. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Curtis.
Yep. No, fantastic. Thank you. So let me get back to my PowerPoint here. I'm very proud of my PowerPoints. It is what it is. Okay, yes. And so, yeah, so those are some of the things that we're working on as well. And then in addition, it is worth pointing out that, yes, we want to make sure that we're advocating. One of the things that we really want to make sure that we're also focusing on is the fact that we have chapters. We were talking about this a little bit right at the beginning, kind of before we officially got things going, or maybe it was after we officially got things going. I'm not quite sure. But we are starting and expanding our chapter programs here in UTRU, because chapters really are the heart and soul of UTRU. As a statewide organization, we can't be everywhere, and we know that. And so we don't want to pretend like we can be, because we don't know about a specific reroute, right? We don't know about a reroute for a reroute, and how frustrating that can be for any particular writer. But that doesn't mean that doesn't still matter, right? And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still know about that and advocate for that. And so that's where chapters come in, as an example. And so currently we have 3 chapters statewide, and we want to continue to grow that. Chapters really are anything we want them to be, as long as they are transit advocacy oriented, right? So by way of example, we currently have those 3 chapters that I mentioned before. So we have a South Salt Lake and Sugar House chapter, we have a UTRU students chapter, and we have the UTRU Cache Valley chapter. So UTRU chapters can be built off any sort of thing. They can be based off of geography and location. So obviously like South Salt Lake and Sugar House, or Cache Valley, which is our newest chapter. It can be based off of interests. So like you are a student, for example. They can be based off of a route that you ride. So are you a front runner or a tracks rider? Are you someone who enjoys the ski bus? We've kicked around the idea of, are you just a person who is car free and likes taking transit? Are you someone who really likes biking and wants to bike everywhere and have transit as part of that? The options really are endless. But on the ground, providing information, advocating, those sorts of things that really help us do the best we can. As an organization from top down, we want to make sure that UTRU is providing the resources to help individual chapters succeed. What does that mean? That means advocacy and training. That means creating things like websites and forums and locations for people to come together. That means allowing spaces for email blasts and websites and Twitter posts and those sorts of things to help you continue to build and grow. From the bottom up, that means that these chapters are telling us about those things that are going on. And so we want to continue to grow those organizations, those individual chapters. So I challenge everybody, even those that maybe don't get a board position today, look for those opportunities to create a chapter. We are here to help you build and grow. We are here to help succeed, because at the end of the day, one of the things I always like to say is that 1 bus route is good and 2 bus routes are better. Well, in the same way, 1 chapter is good, 2 chapters are better. And the more people we have advocating at all levels for transit, the more opportunities we have to make a better system for everybody. You know, from Transit Imagined on down, we want everybody everywhere to be able, from Logan to St. George, from Tooele to Park City and Heber, even all the way out to like Vernal and Moab and Monticello. Like everybody everywhere in Utah deserves the opportunity to have transit that works for them. And chapters are one of those ways that we can make sure that people are aware that if you don't have it, here's how you fight for it. If you do have it, here's how you can make it better. So I encourage everybody, please consider chapter membership, consider starting a chapter. We are here to help you. Let's see. So that's that. We still have about 7 minutes of time available for voting. We still have some questions. Sophia, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, Curtis. So I noticed that on the website you implemented a forum. How do we register for that?
Super easy. I tried to do some beta testing, so if it's not working, please let me know. But really, it's just you create a username and password, and you are good to go. You'll put in your email address, you should get the confirmation email, and then you set it up. We tried to do a little bit of soft testing on that not too long ago. If you do run into errors, let me know. But it really is just this idea of, hey, we just want to talk about transit, right? We want to talk about just some of the things that we're seeing, and we kind of can make it our own. It's, if we want to talk about specific routes, we can make forums about specific routes. If we want to talk about common issues and common concerns, we just kind of set it up based off of some of the common things that we kind of thought, well, maybe people want to talk about that, but we can do a lot of stuff with it if we really wanted to. Hope that answered your question.
Hey, just real quick, and I know this really isn't on the agenda, but I mean, a lot of new people, and I'm really excited that that everybody's here. You know, it shows that you're interested in transit, but really the big reason why you're here is it's not me. I mean, I co-founded the organization in 2014 with another person who's since he was a transit planner, and he stayed anonymous for years. By the way, he worked at Wasatch Front Regional. He was a planner there, but he was unknown. If he was doing that, he would have gotten canned, which, by the way, he actually did, but then he moved on to Florida. But basically, we had the idea of an organization that was positive, that moved things forward, and over the years, I have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get directors and board members on, interested in like, hey, I want to do this. And so what happened, though, over the years is that, people would come, people would go, and the organization as a group moving forward was just stagnant. And back when the pandemic happened, we literally just stopped everything we were doing, right? All the buses stopped anyway, and nobody rode the buses, nobody did anything. And so the organization just kind of fell apart at that point. And I basically I said, okay, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it by myself. I can't be a cheerleader. I mean, I'm a businessman. I've been heavily into Democratic politics in Utah for years now. And so I put out an ad. Saying I need an executive director. I need somebody that I can pay to go and do things. And there were a couple people that applied, but there was one individual that applied that I knew had the right stuff, because he's been involved in politics for years himself, and I know that he could carry the workload. And so we discussed it, and I hired him. And that, again, there wasn't any, the group, the writers union at that point was just basically me, because everybody else had basically said we can't do this during the pandemic. And so that person I hired is our executive director, who's here today, Curtis Herring. And without Curtis, undoubtedly, none of you would be here today. And so, and that's it's a tribute to Curtis and what he's doing for the organization. And so however you got here was basically because of the work of Curtis Herring. And I can't tell you how appreciative I am of him and the work that he puts in. Because again, all of these chapters that we have now is because of Curtis. Curtis basically, he read all the bylaws. He saw that I put it in there. My vision is exactly what he's talked about, which is wherever you're at in life, you need to be part of a chapter. If your chapter is, bike riders for buses, or, people for trains, whatever your outlook is. So Curtis is making this happen. Curtis is making Utah Transit Writers Union a force again. And again, I just want to say, Curtis, thank you very much. We still have a lot of work to do, but I think we're definitely headed in the right direction. And I applaud everybody who's come here, and I definitely applaud Curtis for all the work he's doing.
Well, you make me blush. Thank you, Chris. I do it because I care. But by way of formality, we have 1 minute left for voting. A little less than a minute. We are going to call it at 10:55. So at that point, I'm going to be closing the responses and tabulating, letting you know. Again, we are doing kind of a reverse ranked choice voting. So I will be tabulating. And while we're doing that, I just kind of want to open it up, and we'll start that now, of just kind of a general discussion, general idea of what you would like UTRU to be focusing on over the next couple of years. We are at 10:55, so I am closing responses. But yes, what you would like UTRU to be focusing on. One of the things that we were talking about during our board meetings is how to make sure that we have not just more involvement of our members in general, but also really making sure that dues paying members, voting members have more involvement. And so some of the ideas that we were kind of kicking around was finding one or two specific topics, depending on maybe the transit agency, that you would really like us to specifically focus on. So if it's Cache Valley, maybe it's focusing on spreading it out into some of the more rural areas of the area. If it's Utah, if it's UTA, maybe it's connecting with Logan and Park City more, or increasing into Willa, or if it's more overnight ridership. If we're talking Cedar City, maybe it's just breaking up their one route into 3. If we're talking about St. George, maybe it's about spreading out and having more routes, whatever that is. But I know that as an organization, we are mostly Wasatch Front oriented, and we do have some Cache Valley as well, and we do have some on the back end in Park City with High Valley Transit as well as Park City. But either as an organization as a whole, or for specific transit agencies, or even just in your neighborhood, I want to use this opportunity not only just so I can count votes, but also to just kind of start a discussion. This is a recorded meeting, and so we will be going back, and I will be going back to kind of get a feel of what are some of the things that you all want us to focus on. So this is just kind of a general discussion. Once we're done, I will be announcing our next board members. So yeah, this is your opportunity.
So
let's hear what you have to think.
Yeah, let me jump in here because there's a bunch of people that have their hands raised. So let's go on the order. Ernie, you had your hand raised. Did you have something you want to add?
Well, just to kick off the discussion, I've realized recently with the change days over the past 3 years that it's always bothered me and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I figured it out this year. My problem with the biannual change days is that they pay city planners or people who are trained as city planners to plan these routes. And those changes that they make seem to get modified every 6 months. It's like our transit plan is extremely short term. It's like that they are writing the transit schedules on a whiteboard and then every 6 months erasing half of it to rewrite it again. So I would like to see the Transit Rider Union take a position on a more long-term approach to planning. For instance, I live in the avenues. They modified all of the avenue schedule. There was big pushback from a lot of the residents in the avenues. And to hear the residents of the avenues, they say that there's ghost buses running through the avs. Well, the reality is I ride the bus every single day, and sometimes I ride it at the same time, and sometimes I get a cocktail after work and I ride it late, but I never get on that bus, and it is an empty bus. It's also a 15-minute bus. If they ran it every 30 minutes, I'm sure it'd be more packed. But my point here is, and I apologize, I feel rambling. I'll just wrap up real quick. My point is that I think that the Transit Rider Union, I would like to see us adopt a position that if the route planners planned better routes and people could rely on the dependability of the routes and the schedules, we would see more usage across the entire system.
Yep. That's it. That's a very good point. We've talked about that before. Yeah, Ann, let's go with you. You have your hand up, Ann. You're still on mute. You're still on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I agree with Curtis about needing more. When I say rural, I'm not, yes, Cache Valley and places like that, but even in the southern part of Salt Lake County needs better transportation. I agree with Ernest about the changing every 6 months. The 17 bus only runs once an hour and not on the weekends at all. But I think the bottom line is better communication between the riders of mass transit and UTA itself.
All right. Yep, that sounds good, and I think that's concise. And we've talked about that before, and I think that we'll definitely put that down on the list. Bill.
Thank you, Chris. I wanted to suggest, and I don't know how much work or how much focus is, but on a little bit more of a bigger picture kind of thought. So we have this past week, we got news that it looks likely that Salt Lake City will be the 2034 site for the Winter Olympics. We're the only bidder for 2034. IOC indicated they're going to make a dual award this summer, shortly before the Paris Games. And if we look back to 2002 and kind of understand what a catalyst that was for transportation investment down in the Salt Lake Valley, and then if we go to this, 2 days ago, the governor gave a press conference down at City Hall and said, look, these next 10 years is Utah's time. He talked about all sorts of transportation modes and then specifically said, I love trains. Stuart Adams loves trains. I can tell you that Mike Kohler, who is the state rep for the Wasatch back here, he's out of Midway, pretty much straight out of Central Casting. If you said, send me a rural Utah State House representative, they'd send you Mike Kohler, former dairy farmer. Mike was quoted as saying, I love trains. I did my mission in Japan. Trains are amazing. We need a train in the Wasatch back. I think there's a big role for your group, this group, to play in the coming years in terms of advocating and making sure that Utah really does take advantage of this Olympic moment that we're going to have. And then just to expand on that a little bit further, we all have some notion of how business gets done in the state, how real estate development gets done in the state. I'll share with you folks up here in the Wasatch back, about 15 miles past Park City down Interstate 80, in an area called Hoytsville, which sits between Wanship and Colville. There is a planning process underway that's called the Cedar Crest Village Overlay. The two developers behind that are Larry H. Miller Group and Ivory Homes. That property that they are in this planning process with is bisected by the Union Pacific Rail Trail, which is a preserved rail right-of-way, currently being used only as a trail right now. And over the next 25 to 30 years of the proposed build out of this village, they're talking about 20 to 30,000 people living there. I think we've seen in the state how real estate development in the past few years has started to center around modes of transportation. The additional development down at Daybreak, the development, planning and development that's happening in Vineyard around the front runner station, which I believe was just opened down there recently. I think there's a big opportunity to kind of advocate for transportation in concert with the development that happens in the state, which kind of puts everybody on the same page instead of in an adversarial relationship. So that's what I just that was the thought that was on my mind that I wanted to share.
No, that's and that's good. And again, these are things that we've talked with in the past. So yeah, I mean,
Yep.
And here's the thing: we could even be prepared for Utah to be the home of the Winter Olympics forever, because if no city makes a bid and we're the only one that bids every year, we could literally be that. So Tyson, you have your hand up. Go ahead and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, well, Bill kind of stole my thunder there. I was going to talk about the Olympics, and something I'm learning in one of my classes about advocacy coalitions is that a lot of time advocacy groups work for years trying to affect policy change, and they don't get a lot of results. But then something happens called a focusing event, and the focusing event, suddenly a lot of change can happen very rapidly. And if those groups are ready for it, then they can really get things done. And so I think the Olympics could be one of those focusing events. Yeah,
no, and you're right. And one thing that we've talked about with the Transit Imagined is, and I can't remember, I think we called it Lake Runner which is running from Park City to Tooele, and you know, that would solve one of the issues I have to get out to Tooele. If there was an hourly train that ran Salt Lake City to Tooele, that could literally solve most of the freeway problem that they have, and they wouldn't have to build out a lot of the freeway out there. So yeah, these events are going to be very, very important, and we will have to take advantage of them. So yeah, just another thing that we can focus on. So yeah, I appreciate everybody's comments. Is there anybody else that would like to add something? I don't see anybody's hand up. Okay, I think we're good there, Curtis. It's back to you, unless you're still counting on your abacus.
Still counting. So adding more people kind of screwed up my math a little bit. I apologize. Ernie, you got stuff going on. Or you had a question, comment? I thought, maybe not.
Sorry, I got muted.
Okay.
Okay. Historical perspective, it was the 2002 Olympics, and it was Senator Bob Bennett who brought federal funds back into the state of Utah for the purpose specifically of the Olympics, and that is what funded all of our tracks lines. It also did some improvements on the bus routes, but truly, the Blue Line owes its very existence to Bob Bennett and the Olympics in this state, and hopefully. Hopefully we have some federal legislators that can bring back some of the booty so that we can make those improvements in our transit infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic, but yeah, maybe. Bill?
Well, yes, I share your skepticism. I would say that we do have 15 months of a golden opportunity. So I think the focus has to be in the next 15 months, you know, because we have a retiring U.S. Senator, Mitt Romney, who was also the guy who ran the 2002 Olympics, who also was a governor of Massachusetts during the Big Dig. So someone very experienced and understanding of the impact of major infrastructure projects. And given his career in public service, you know, typically back in New York City, I mean, we saw the effort to renovate or build a new Penn Station really kind of coalesce behind an opportunity to honor Senator Patrick Moynihan. So I feel like there's potentially an opportunity to get some advocacy from Senator Romney for a big project here in Utah. That's really his namesake project. So I think the next 15 months are critical.
Yep, I agree. Tyson?
Yeah, and just to add, I mean, Romney has already brought home a lot of infrastructure funding just through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. So yeah, I think that's a great idea to make it like his legacy.
Yeah, and the current batch of Republican candidates are very anti-government, anti-spending money. Certainly not the kind of advocates that we need, you know, to discuss transit. And again, it's one of the reasons why. I mean, yeah, it's a shame Romney isn't running again. I mean, I'd like to see a Democrat, but you know, I've kind of given up all hope as far as that goes. And I think there has to be a change within the Republican Party to move away from the far right anti-government, anti-spending, anti-tax. But yeah, I think that in a few years we may be hoping that Romney was back, because he's a for the most part no nonsense. I mean, he does get caught up into the wave sometimes of, you know, we're the Republican Party and we're not going to do anything to help the government or help the country. But anyway, I digress. And so
his favorite meat is hot dog. That's all you need to know.
Yes.
So the best laid plans of mice and men. So with the addition of the additional candidates, which is fantastic. I don't want to say that's a bad thing, but it did make my math more complicated. So I am not ready. Here's what I will say. I will email all of the candidates as well as make a public statement for everyone, but it's going to take me a little bit longer than I expected. So I do apologize for that to all of our candidates. But I will send out an email just to everyone involved, hopefully within the next hour or so. I just don't want to keep everybody on the line as I'm just sitting here going through my Excel spreadsheets. So I apologize for that.
I'm going to have to show you how to do ranked choice voting, Curtis.
Well, I had it figured out and then it all just fell apart. So anyway,
Right.
I will be emailing shortly. I apologize in advance. And so it's probably going to take me maybe 10 or 15 more minutes. So I will let everybody know shortly. I just don't want you hanging around in the meantime. So that being said, just as a reminder, even to those that don't make it on the board or who didn't throw their hat in the ring in the first place, but still want to be more involved. These are the ways that you can stay in touch with us. Here's how you can reach out to us through all of our various social media. Thank you all for being here today. I will first of all email the individual candidates that reached out, letting them know, as well as just making a public announcement, like I said. But let's please do stay in touch. Really, board membership in a lot of ways is a formality. Being involved is what matters.
Yeah, the other thing is that anybody is welcome to the board meetings. You can come. We meet right now. I think it's the second or third Tuesday of the month at 7:30. We might be moving that up, but we do publish those. You're welcome to come and sit. And if there's an opportunity for you to comment or add to the discussion, we'll allow you to do that. So it's just that if you come to the meetings, you're not, you're a guest, but you can certainly come and listen and certainly make comments if we open that up, which we usually do.
We absolutely do. You just don't get to vote on our minutes. So, so with that, the last thing I'm looking for, we have a motion to adjourn. It's non-debatable unless anybody really wants to keep this thing going. So with that being said, motion is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye. It's
All
non-debatable.
right. Thank you very much. It is not debatable. That's right. All right. Thank
There's
you
no
all
vote.
very much. And keep an eye on your email.
Thank you, Curtis. Thanks everybody
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.